All right, welcome to another live Q&A. We do Q&A every week in our private community, so questions get submitted on Wednesdays and then I answer them on Thursdays live. I will always answer the questions that came in on Wednesday first, and then if you have any additional questions, you can drop it in the chat box here or on TikTok, and I will answer that if we have time afterwards. This week we only have 3 questions, so definitely drop your questions if you have any in the chat, and I will have plenty of time to talk about it after. So first question is from Ireland. She says, any tips on bedtime tantrums? How do you validate big feelings and provide time, space, and support to work through them without being super late for bedtime? So kids really, especially like the younger ones, they're going to thrive in the routine. So we want to figure out what the bedtime routine is, right? Like, is it bath, books, bed? A lot of people do that. For us, we do something we call favorite part of the day and tomorrow. So we literally just, when it's time to settle, we go around and we talk about our favorite part of the day, and then we talk about what's happening tomorrow. And that's kind of like the cue to go off to bed. And it gives them, for us, it gives them like something to look forward to for tomorrow. And I can be like, make sure you get your rest because this is all the stuff that we're doing tomorrow. So definitely just like come up with a routine for bedtime. And then I would say when you're sort of teaching this routine, leave plenty of time. So if you know that you want the kids like in bed by 7:30, maybe start bath time at like 5:30 in the beginning. That way you can help them work through any big feelings that come up. I see you're really frustrated. We need to get this bath done. And then we're going to move on to reading books. Which book are you excited about, right? And you're helping them through it. After a couple of days, of going through that same exact routine, you're going to see that time span, it's going to go from 2 hours to an hour and a half to an hour to, you're going to be knocking out bedtime. We do it in like a half an hour. Everybody's in the shower, read books while I get the other one dressed. And then we're doing favorite part of the day. Tomorrow we have a snack, bedtime. So I would say give yourself almost that like prep time, that sort of like learning curve where you can help them work through these big tantrums and the transition without being off schedule or winding up putting them to bed at like 10 o'clock at night. Okay, Shannon says, this is a homeschool question. Shannon says, unfortunately, I don't think homeschooling from K through 12 is going to be an option for us. Should I send my kids to preschool to prepare at 3 or 4? Is it okay to keep them home until kindergarten? I feel a lot of pressure to send my oldest to preschool, but I'd much rather spend that money on activities like gymnastics or swimming lessons. And then Ireland chimed in and said, personally, I think it really depends on the child. If you think that your child would enjoy school, then do that. If you think it would cause a large amount of stress on them, then don't. In my experience, I had terrible separation anxiety, and that experience every morning. Oh, what am I doing here? Okay. And that experience, sorry, that sound threw me off, caused me trauma I believe I still deal with to this day. While I don't blame my parents for doing this, as they waited until I was 4, I believe I still would have been just as traumatized with waiting longer. Of course, it's just my personal experience and every child is different. Okay, cool. So Shannon is asking basically like, hey, we're probably not going to homeschool long term. Should I keep my kids home for preschool, or should I should I send them in to kind of like prep them so that when kindergarten hits, that it's not like a huge transition? And I personally agree with what Ireland says. You can kind of go based on like you and the child. If your child is like eager to get out of the house, you want them to socialize, you're not doing like other activities, the child is like really eager to be in that setting, I don't think there's any harm in doing like a 2 half-day a week kind of preschool program to kind of get them started with seeing how that transition goes. But if that's not comfortable for you, or if you want to, like you're saying here, you want to take them to gymnastics, swim lessons, maybe you want to go to the park, you want to go to museums, I feel like the children are going to learn so much through doing those extracurricular activities with you. And I think that you will both benefit from that time together. I think that at 3 and 4 years old, they are learning how to interact in their world. They're learning how to process big emotions. They're learning how to share, how to have a meal with other people, like all of these things. And yes, they can learn it in a preschool setting, and they will learn it in a preschool setting. But that's one teacher needing to help, let's say, 15 kids plus. And so there's not going to be a lot of room for them to have that individual growth and that real confidence in themselves, and like understanding of their wants, their desires, and your family values, right? So in my opinion, like, I would keep them home. I would do activities with them. I would practice transitions by you maybe going to the supermarket by yourself a couple of times, or maybe they get dropped off at grandma's house for a few hours, or maybe you could do like a drop-in daycare or something if you want to kind of practice that sort of transition. But I think as far as like learning goes, I think all of those skills can be learned at home. And then kids are really resilient and they're pretty quick learners. So I think once kindergarten comes at 5 years old, they're going to go into a classroom, and while they haven't done it before, I think they're going to pick right up. They're going to see other kids. You've taught them how to interact with people, how to share, how to take turns, how to do all the things, just by being with them. And I think that the transition might be a lot like less stressful than you might think. And at 5 years old, they're going to be able to mentally process the fact that mommy's leaving and mommy will be back in a few hours better than they would at, let's say, 2.5 or 3 years old. Okay, tips on how to get a 15-month-old to stop hitting. He has receptive speech delay, so probably doesn't understand me saying not to hit. I'm going to be honest with you. My daughter's 19 months old. She definitely takes to hitting more than the older one did when she was younger. And I think, like, even without a speech delay, kids that young are not going to understand. Like, I don't like the approach that says hands are not for hitting, like, don't hit mommy with your hands. Like, I always say this, like, I compare it to training a dog, right? Like, I always say, like, quick correct and move on, right? And so if they're hitting you, they can be hitting for a couple of different reasons. They can be hitting because of frustration. In that case, we're going to quick correct the behavior. So quick correct that hitting. Do not hit. We do not hit. And remove yourself. And if there are other children in the home, you can teach them too. Like, I will teach my 5-year-old how to respond when my younger one hits her, because even the attention of her calling for me, mom, Emma hit me, like, gives her that attention that she wants, rather than Zoe just saying, do not hit me, and walking away, and you don't get any response for somebody hitting you, for hitting somebody. So it might be frustration, in which case you can quick correct the bad behavior and then move on to teaching them how to cope with that frustration. Well, do not hit me. Do you need help? Can I help you with this? Are you frustrated? Come on, let's find another way. And then you move into teaching, right? So release that anger that you have that they just hit you. How could they disrespect me like that? And see it for what it is, which is trying to communicate the frustration. You still correct that. Hitting is not acceptable. But then try to teach them how to handle it better next time. They could also be hitting because they've just learned that skill, especially at 15 months old. Maybe they just learned, they're learning cause and effect. They're learning that when I hit the dog flinches, and that's funny. They're learning that, when I hit mom, she has this reaction, and I want to experiment with that. And they're just learning the physical, skill and developmental skill of hitting. So you can give them something that they can hit that gives some sort of like cause and effects action. So you can give like a pillow, of course, but that's not going to give them much reward. There are toys. There's one, I'll post it on my IG stories, but it's almost like a tower, and you put the balls on the top, and it comes with a hammer, and the kids could like hammer it down, and then the balls fall out, and then they have to like chase the balls. So you can give them that to practice their hitting. We don't hit people, you can hit this. And then sort of the last thing that I think about when a child is hitting is the attention aspect of it, right? Like, are they doing it for attention? And oftentimes what happens is the child hits, and then we go into this series of, oh, you hurt me. Or sometimes people will even say, oh, you hurt mommy. Or maybe we go the direction of, hands are for hitting, and come on, these are your happy hands, and this is what you're gonna do with your hands, and blah blah blah. And while it is correcting the behavior in its intention, in my opinion, it's just giving a lot of attention and affection after they've hit you. So yes, we need to teach children that hands, you can be gentle with your hands, but I don't believe in teaching it immediately after they've hit you, because I believe in not giving them attention for that, bad behavior. So they would hit, you will correct the behavior, you will address what you think is maybe like the underlying thing. And then during a calm time when they haven't hit you, you could say, oh, let me see your hand. Whoa, look, do you see how you could be gentle with the puppy? Do you see how you could be gentle with mommy? And then you're teaching that outside of these sort of like more stressful times. I do think that the kids are more receptive to it too. But Erica, I don't think, the speech delay obviously is going to be really stressful. But I think at that age anyway, with hitting, it like kids learn anyway, like a little bit less verbal, like a little bit more show me what to do. They're interacting in this exchange of attention. And I think that you could be effective even with the speech delay. All right, so that's all the questions that we had in the community. I'm gonna jump to the comments. And then we will pop off. We actually are doing fall pictures today. There's a lady in the neighborhood that uses my kids as her models for her photography business. So it works out for both of us because she gets models and I get basically free pictures every couple of months. So it's awesome. Okay, so we have a question here. Hi there, is a routine necessary? My son is 1 year old. He doesn't always have a bath. Oh, love this question. So do you have to have like a bedtime routine? No. And we tend to have very loose routines in our house in general. I would say that if it works for you to not have any routine at all, just go with it. It's working for you. Don't stress it, right? But a lot of kids do thrive in routine, but you can make that routine so simple. I'll give you an example. Emma, she's 19 months old now. Her routine, yes, she still has a bottle. Don't come at me, I know. But she has a bottle, she has milk on the couch, and then she'll say, all done. And then I just pick her up and I bring her upstairs to her room. And then we say, night, night, puppy, night, night, Elsa, night, night, penguin, night, night, giraffe. That's all her stuffies that are in her crib. And then I say, night, night, Emma. And I put her down on her belly and I put her blanket over her. I pat her butt once. And then I go out of the room and I shut the door. The whole thing takes like 3 minutes of like getting the bottle ready, her eating the bottle, bringing her upstairs, doing that little ritual, and like putting her down. It doesn't matter if we've read books before that, we've had bath before that, if we were just went to dinner and now we're just going straight to bed. None of that matters because the routine is that simple saying goodnight to all the stuffed animals. So you can make it work, whatever kind of makes sense for your family. Say your child goes to sleep at different times, that's fine too. We do that especially like in the summer. I'm not going to call the kids in from playing outside at 6 p.m. just because we usually do bedtime at 7:30. The sun's out, the kids are having fun, I'm going to let them stay out there. Now some kids need more of a structure, so you just have to really do what works with your kids, but don't feel your structures and your kind of processes in your house should never feel constraining. They should always be there to like help you make your days less stressful. You should never be like working to make your routines work. My son is 4 and is constantly hitting. I explain to him my feelings and that it's not okay to do. He doesn't listen or learn, so he's in reception and doing it now at school. I would, Caitlin, I would try to zoom out a little bit. So we have hitting at 4 years old. It sort of like extends past that developmental, like, oh, I'm learning what to do with my arms. I'm learning these cause and effects, right? Like I expect that from a 15-month-old, 16-month-old like that. For a 4-year-old, where they have more communication, they have a little bit more development, they have more tools in their disposal with hitting, I usually look to other root causes, right? So like the hitting is sort of like a symptom. So if we can zoom out and just take a look at a couple of things to think about would be like control. Does the child have control as much as possible that you're comfortable with? Can they pick out their clothes? Can they pick what they want to eat? Can they say no when they want to say no? Like, can they express discomfort? Can they express big feelings? Are we giving them the space to have those big emotions so that they don't bottle it up and hit? Are we modeling that when we get frustrated, we don't hit? Does the child have an outlet when they have big feelings? For some people, like for me, if I'm frustrated, I usually will let out like a growl. Like I'll be like, like I just need to release it. Breathing sometimes works, but sometimes when it gets like so bottled up, like I just need to scream. And some people need to physically release, and that might come out with working out in the gym as a grown up. It might come out with doing kickboxing, whatever. But as a kid, where is their release? Where are they allowed to have a release that's different than you? Because this child might be saying, I need to get this out of my body. And if you're teaching, let's say, calm down techniques, like you need to take a breath, you need to talk this through, whatever, it just might not work for that child. And at 4 years old, they can kind of tell you that. So I might even use it as a connection moment. Honestly, I might even just say, come on, you've been hitting a lot at school. Come on, let's go do this. And just do something silly. Get a bunch of hammers and go out to a tree and do it with them. Like just bang on the tree, bang, bang, bang. Let them get it all out. And then sit down with them and say, listen, if you need to get frustration out, this could work. This is a way that we can get frustration out. We cannot hit other people. Do you want to talk about like what's going on? Why are you feeling like you need to hit? And you can have these conversations. A lot of times people think you can't have these conversations with the kids. You can, but meet their need first. They are trying to release something. What is your opinion on having kids redirect their hitting to things like stuffed animals? Yeah, I love it. I love it. I know they're sort of like double tier, Yes, teach calm down techniques. Yes, teach other ways of handling big feelings. Yes, to all of that. But if we can allow them to get their feelings out in a safe way by hitting a stuffed animal, like I'm all for it. In the moment, you let them hit that stuffed animal, hit that pillow, go get the hammer and hit the tree, whatever works for your family, right? And then outside of that big emotion moment, then you teach the lessons. The next day when things are calm, then you teach, hey, yesterday was really frustrating, right? I saw you beating up that teddy bear. We're not always going to have a teddy bear with us when we get frustrated. Sometimes we're going to have to use different tools to handle our big frustrations and our big feelings. This is what works for me. Do you want to try this? Here's some tools to put in your toolbox. And we teach them outside of these high stress situations. In the moment, you let them release, and then you teach them when they are able to receive it. All right, what time is it? 12:50. I'm going to do 2 more questions here. And then just so you know, inside of the private community, like I answer pretty much every single post. I try to answer every single day, every single post. And then I do live Q&As every Thursday. So you can ask me your questions all the time there. I know things get lost sometimes on TikTok and Instagram. My child can't stop taking toys and I'm not sure to help him. He's 3.5 and I watch other kids in my house. I would just make like the sharing rule really clear. So it's stressful for kids when like other people can just come into their space and take their things. It'd be like somebody coming into my house right now and like taking things off my desk. Like that would be like really stressful. So I would just make sure that the child has something that they can like they have toys that are not shareable. Like they don't have to share it. They have their special things. Maybe it's new toys. Maybe it's toys with a lot of pieces. Maybe it's just anything that they really like that gets to be put away when these other kids come, because they're not toys that get to be shared. And then make your sharing policy like really known with the other kids in the class or in your house. And what I mean by that is, like, in our house, you don't have to share just because, like, if I have this water bottle, I always use this as my example. If I have this water bottle, um, and you come over and you're like, I want that water bottle, I don't have to share just because you want it. I will share it when I'm done. Sharing in my house means when you're done with it, then you give it up for a turn. And so you can kind of avoid some of it like that. That makes the kids a little bit less feel like they have to have so much stress around their things. I'm gonna do one more question here, and then you could leave everything else in the group, in the community. Okay. Britt says, I don't know what to do. She isn't really all that bad, just strong willed. Daycare wants to meet with us tomorrow, or almost, oh, the messages got backward. Daycare wants to meet with us tomorrow for our almost 3-year-old stubbornness. I don't even know what to do. She isn't really all that bad, just strong willed. That's really hard because, I don't want to train strong willed out of children ever. I think it's a positive thing to have strong willed children. I even made shirts that say strong willed on purpose, right? In a daycare setting, it's really hard for them to harness that, because if you have 20 kids that are all like, stubborn, you're not going to get anything done, and it's probably going to be unsafe. So I would kind of handle this in 2 different ways. I would first hear the daycare out. What are they considering stubborn behavior? What is kind of like the root of that, right? Like you can kind of like use the same techniques of finding the root cause of, like, what is the root of their concerns? Like, is she not sitting down at meal times? Is that a control thing and they just need, or is it like a safety thing? All the kids need to be sitting at meal times. Is it because they're concerned that she's not going to be eating enough? In which case, maybe you can tell her, hey, it's okay with me if she doesn't sit during meal times, right? Does she refuse to do certain assignments? Which at 3 years old, if you tell my kid that they have to like color on this one particular path and they want to color the whole picture blue, like, I wouldn't care, right? So maybe you can release some of that for them. Maybe you can say, listen, I'm okay with these things. If you can let go a little bit of that control, we're okay with her having these freedoms. And then I think the second tier will be to hear their concerns, hear what the problem areas are there, and then address it with your child at home, but not in like a punishment way, not in like a you're doing this wrong way, but more in different places we have to follow different rules. And at school, they need us to do this, and I know you're more comfortable doing it this way, but let's practice doing it the way that the school needs us to do it. It's good to teach them respect. It's good to teach them how to behave in different situations. So you might teach them a way, and it's so hard without knowing the specifics. If you're in the community, like, let me know what the daycare says tomorrow, and I'd love to have like a longer conversation about it. But like, teach her kind of like, what is the limit based on whatever the daycare says, like the issues are, like, what is the limit? Listen, you can have your freedom up until this point, but then when teacher says this, or when this happens, you need to sit in your seat, or you need to listen to the teacher and do your story time, or whatever the case is. So put a clear boundary there, and then teach them how to handle themselves kind of past that boundary. So I am going to pop off. I'm going to leave this recording first and the community first. Nettie, thanks for joining. When you join the live through the community, I can actually see you. If you want me to, you could turn off your video though. But it's cool because it feels like I'm actually talking to somebody. But yeah, so we do this every Thursday. Questions get asked on Wednesdays in the community. I answer them live on Thursdays. We have book club starting this Sunday. We are doing I don't have it on me, how to do the work. It's about healing from childhood traumas and how your childhood traumas affect you and affect your parenting and sort of like doing self healing. And that's it. So I will catch you next time. Bye bye.